Hi everybody, welcome back to the distance learning program. It's great to be here with you today, and I'm so happy that you're watching the videos. The first thing I'd like to do in this lesson is to go to the Ventures3 book. So if you could get your Ventures3 book out and turn to page 106. The focus of this part of the lesson is learning how to understand a chart comparing job growth in different occupations. Learning how to understand a chart comparing job growth in different occupations. And the first thing I'd like for you all to focus on is the phrase job growth. Job growth. What do you think job growth is? Well, job growth is how jobs increase in number over a period of time. So it's how the number of jobs increase over a period of time. And what we're going to do now is look at a chart that compares different occupations and job growth in those different occupations. So if you'll take a look over here on page 106, another view. This is lesson F, and we're going to learn how to interpret a chart that compares the job growth in these different occupations that are in the first column. So you can see the first column says occupation at the top, and I'm going to look at the different occupations and then compare how the number of jobs is increasing for each of these different occupations. So the first occupation is automotive service technicians and mechanics. Now, if you look at the second column up at the top, it says job openings due to growth and replacements. Growth would mean new jobs, and replacements means people who leave a job and are replaced, or someone else comes and takes their place. And you can see that this number that's in each category in this column is the number in thousands. So when it says 237, that means there's an increase of 237,000 jobs in the automotive service technician and mechanics category. So if you compare that with another column, or I'm sorry, another category, like dental hygienists, dental hygienists is right below the automotive service and technicians and mechanics, and you can see that that number is 70,000. So there were a lot more jobs created in the automotive service technicians category. Now, if you look at the third column, it says percent employment change from 2014 to 2024. So that means over a 10-year period, the 5.3 that is in the first row for automotive service technicians means there's a 5.3% increase in the number of jobs over that period of time. If the number's positive, it means it's an increase. If the number happened to be negative, it would mean a decrease. But as you can see, all of these percentages are positive, so that means there's an increase in the number of jobs in every category for each different occupation. Now let's look at the third column. It says typical education needed for entry. Typical education needed for entry. That means in order to be able to get a job in each of these different occupations, you need to have this type of education. And for automotive service technicians, it says you need a post-secondary technical non-degree award. A post-secondary technical non-degree award. That means you do not need a college education. Post-secondary means after high school, so you need to go to a training class, or you need to receive training, and it would be technical training for this particular job, for this type of occupation. So it's not a degree. You would just get certified, or you might get a certification for being an automotive service technician. So when it says post-secondary technical, just remember that that means it's just a certification and it does not require a degree. Now, if we look at the next column, the next category, which is dental hygienists, you can see that there were 70,000 jobs created between 2014 and 2024. That's an increase of 70,000 jobs, and that's an 18.6% increase. And for the type of education needed, it says an associate's degree. Now, an associate's degree is a 2-year degree from a college. So that job requires more education than the automotive service technician job. You need to get a 2-year degree from community college, for example. That's called an associate's degree. It's not a 4-year degree, but instead it's a 2-year degree. So that if you want to become a dental hygienist, you need to go to a community college and get that 2-year degree. Next is food service managers. Those would be managers at restaurants or fast food restaurants. So you can see that that's a 77,000 job increase between 2014 and 2024, or a 5.1% increase. And the type of education that's required for that is a high school diploma or equivalent. And an equivalent diploma to a high school diploma is a GED. And so all you need to become a food service manager is a high school diploma or an equivalent like a GED. Next, medical assistants. That had an increase of 262,000 jobs, or a 23.5% increase. And the education required for that is post-secondary technical non-degree education. So you just need to get certified, like go to a training program for medical assistants, and you can learn how to become a medical assistant and then get a job in that field. Next, for retail salespersons, there was an increase of 1,917,000 jobs. So that's really 1,917,000 jobs. And that's a 6.8% increase. And it says here that you have no formal education credential required. So you don't even need to have a formal education to become a retail salesperson. Then finally, veterinary technologists and technicians. And it says there were 274,000 jobs created, and that's an 18.7% increase. And the type of education required for entry into that field is an associate's degree. So that's another degree that's similar to the one that we saw for dental hygienists, and it's a 2-year degree from a community college. All right, so now that we've explained the chart, what I'd like to do is see if you can answer the questions that are shown below. So it says, read the questions, look at the chart, and fill in the answer. The first question says, which statement is not true about the jobs in the chart? So it's important to understand the question. It's asking for which statement is not true. So it's false. So the first entry, A, is one requires an associate's degree. Well, we were just looking at the chart and we saw that there are 2 occupations that require an associate's degree, dental hygienists and veterinary technologists. So that answer is not the correct answer because that one is false. I'm sorry. That's strange. That is false, so it is not true. Interesting. Well, it looks like we have two that are false. So the next one says one requires a bachelor's degree. And that's not true at all because we didn't see any of these occupations that required a bachelor's degree, which is a 4-year degree. So in this case, we have two answers that could be the correct answer. We can see that maybe they mean only one requires an associate's degree. That's possibly the reason why A is not chosen. Maybe they're just saying that you can find an occupation that requires an associate's degree, and they didn't mean only one. They just meant that there is one that requires an associate's degree. So since both of those occupations, dental hygienist and veterinary technologist, require an associate's degree, maybe they're saying that that's true. So in the book, it says that B is the correct answer, that one requires a bachelor's degree, because none of these occupations require a bachelor's degree. I was thinking that they were saying that only one requires an associate's degree, but I believe what they're trying to say is that we can find one that requires an associate's degree. And in that case, it would be true. C says one requires technical training. See, this is the part that's difficult because I can find two that require technical training: automotive service technicians and medical assistants. They require technical training. So the logic doesn't make it doesn't make much sense, because in this case we can find two that require technical training. But I guess again, they don't mean only one requires technical training. They just mean that there is one of these jobs that requires technical training, and we can find that in automotive service technicians, and we can also find it for medical assistants. Both of those require technical training. So I guess you could say that that's true, and in that case, it's not the answer. So B is the answer so far. And then finally, there will be more jobs in 2024 than 2014. And since we see for all of these different occupations, there's an increase in the number of jobs between 2014 to 2024, then that would mean that there is going to be an increase overall. Since in every category there's an increase, there has to be an increase overall, which means there will be more jobs in 2024 than 2014. So that question was a little difficult to understand, mainly because they said one requires an associate's degree and one requires technical training, and we found two in both cases. But they're saying since you can find one, then that means it must be true. It doesn't mean only one. Now for number 2, it says, which occupations will have the largest percent increase in growth from 2014 to 2024? Now, the largest percent increase means we have to look at the third column where it shows percent employment change. Percent employment change. And we're not looking at the first column, which is just the total number of job increase. We're looking at percent increase. So that's the second column, or the third column here. And it says which occupations have the largest percent increase. So we want the greatest percent increase. The first one says automotive service technicians and retail salespersons, and that's 5.3 and 6.8%. Those are pretty small increases compared to the other column. The other category. So I would say that's not the right answer. The book says it's the right answer, but obviously 5.3 and 6.8 are less than 18.6 and 23.5%. Let's look at B. It says veterinary technologists and technicians and medical assistants. So veterinary is 18.7 and medical assistants is 23.5. Those are the two highest percent increases in the whole column. So I would say that that is the correct answer. Veterinary technologists and technicians and medical assistants, because those are the highest percent increases in the column. Food service managers and dental hygienists are 5.1 and 18.6. Those percent increases are less than the ones we just read in Part B. So that would be false, because that's a smaller increase. Then D says retail salespersons and medical assistants. Retail salespersons is 6.8 and medical assistants is 23.5. But the 6.8 for retail salespersons is less than the 18.7 for veterinary technologists, so that is not correct either. So I would say the answer is B, even though the book says it's A. Let's go to Part 3. It says, what is the growth in number of jobs from 2014 to 2024 for dental hygienists? So what we need to do is go to the dental hygienist row and look across to see how many jobs were created from 2014 to 2024, and it says 70. So that means 70,000, because down here next to the star, it says numbers in thousands. So when it says here job openings due to growth and replacements, and it has a star, that means look down at the bottom of the chart, and it tells you that these numbers are in thousands. So then, therefore, 70 corresponds to 70,000, and that means that the answer would be D. It doesn't mean just 70 jobs, it means 70,000 jobs were created. Then number 4 says, what is included in this chart? A says salary information for certain jobs, but there is no mention of any salary information for any of these different jobs, so that's not correct. B says information about the decline of certain occupations. Well, none of these occupations are declining, they're all increasing, so that's not correct. C says information about the amount of education necessary for certain jobs. Well, that's exactly what this the last column, the fourth column, that tells us the type of education needed for each of these different jobs. So C would be the correct answer. And D says the amount of work experience necessary for certain jobs, and there's no mention of work experience. So that means that C is the correct answer. Okay. Now that we're finished interpreting the chart and understanding how to compare job growth for different occupations, that will conclude this part of the lesson. And I want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.